You know, sometimes bigger is not always better. And if you've been with the channel for a while, you're probably thinking, Adam, have you fallen off your rocker? That's not like you at all. This International Harvester barge wagon has been fantastic for us out here at the farm. 8-ton running gear. It'll hold about 6 or 7 yards of material, firewood, dirt, logs, you name it. But sometimes this thing is just too big for the job at hand. So bigger is not always better. And while this utility trailer has got a lot of utility, again, not the answer. What I really need out here is a small ATV trailer or wagon to pick up sticks when I mow the yard, because I'll find a mountain when I do so. Or to bring, 15 chairs and canopies and coolers out here to the pond whenever we have a pond day with all of our friends and family. So instead of going out and buying some custom expensive ATV trailer that has dual articulating axles in the middle, maybe a power dump bed, I opted to get this set of running gear from Northern Tool. I think it's rated for 2,200 pounds, 330 bucks, and then I can build my own custom bed on top of it. This assembly should be pretty quick and straightforward, at least on paper. So it can go up to, I think, 6.5 feet on the frame. You can put an 8-foot bed on it. And I believe it's 4 feet wide to the outside of the tires. So let me throw this together real quick. Still haven't decided my length, but before I do that, you want to make sure that you have it towing properly. So if you take a peek here, you can see it right now. If I got this one square with the frame, this one is out of square. So I'm going to just take an actual carpenter square and stick it against the frame and make sure that both of these are parallel to one another so that it actually tows properly and doesn't kind of jump. Here, I'll just show you what I mean. So if I put the square here, I want to make sure that this tire is square to the frame. And if I do that right now, you can obviously see that this one is not. So back here we'll just adjust the steering link so that they line up. When you turn this, you want to make sure the front end's just not skipping. If one tire is pointed in and one tire is pointed this way, it's going to jump across the concrete and you'll know you're out of alignment. You're going to need some grease. I am going to end up going the full 6.5 foot length of the frame for an 8-foot bed. The kids are going to love this. I'm doing hay rides all the time. Might go ahead and take it for a quick spin behind the golf cart just to make sure everything kind of rides as it should. It's much easier to make these adjustments now before I start building the bed on here. All right, so I got everything tightened up and I'm ready to start putting the bed on this thing. Like you saw earlier in that utility trailer, I got a mountain of 2x6s out by the barn, which I'm going to be using on this. These beams go on, it's pretty simple. You can get creative with them if you want and maybe embed this plate in the beam. I saw a guy do that on YouTube. If you do that though, the problem then is that it causes your beam to sit so far out that when you turn the tire, it'll rub and then you got to shave away. I'm going to opt for moving it in kind of as the directions call for it and then not have to mess with shaving the beam down. So there's a hole here. This bracket will simply bolt right there, and you got a hole on the other side to put your lag screw in. You could lag screw it or bolt all the way through. I'm just going to use some lag screws I had laying around. I believe these are 3-inch 5/16. All right, I'll get all that on there and then we'll circle back. All right, so we're out at the barn now. I got my beams on there. I cut all my 2x6 boards for the top. Those are just dry fit right now. I wanted to see how much overhang I would have if I just laid full 2x6s on here and didn't rip one, and we're gonna be just fine, no problem. And I know this will draw up because it's pressure treated, but I want to have these as tight as possible for the time being. I don't want to lose material if I'm hauling around mulch and I got, little kids and whatnot. I could always put plywood on this. Also, I should mention I tried to find the pieces that had minimal knots. Here's where I messed up and cut pieces that had knots at first, but even with the stack over there, it's kind of hard to find, pristine lumber. I pinned down the first board here, got my outside offset where I want it. Now we're just gonna line these up, snap a line, go for it. I'm going to put 2 screws in each board, but I'm only going to run 1 row of screws. I'm not going to go too wide, even though the top of this is screwing into a 4x6. Be just fine for what we're doing. I'm gonna go through and do the first screw and everything, and then all right, got double screws in each bore all the way down. That's all I'm gonna do screw wise. I'll clean up the edge tomorrow with a saw, and then I'm gonna work on putting my rails on this. I'd like to get some stake pockets so my rails will be removable. I'm gonna put a rail on this side, the front, and that side there, and likely leave the back open. Okay, so here is the finished product. Got a little carried away off camera, but got in the groove and just went for it. I'll walk you through what I did. Turned out really nice though, very pleased with it thus far. There's not much to this, but I started by putting a 2x4 underneath all of the 2x6 to kind of pin the ends of these together. I screwed those in from the top, and I just kind of beveled the end here a little bit. But once that was on both sides, I then put this 2x6 on top, kind of toe screwed in from the sides in a lot of places, and then this top piece is just sat on top here, and it's not actually pinned down anywhere but affixed with these 2x6 risers, if you will, spaced out throughout the end. And then I have a 2x4 one at the back, and I kind of cut the end down. I'll sand this so it's smoother for the kids getting in and out. I had talked about using stake pockets on this so the sides were removable, but the more I thought about it, it just seems silly. I'm probably never going to want the sides off of this thing because I like to have stuff not flying off the trailer. And even if I did, then I have to store them somewhere, and they're not going to be near as sturdy as these. These are rock solid. You won't have to worry about any of the kids leaning on this and falling out or the rail failing. With all this green lumber, it's fairly heavy right now. The golf cart pulls it just fine. That golf cart is lithium powered, and so we cut 300 pounds out of the golf cart itself plus the extra power. It pulls it just fine, and once it dries out, it'll be even better. Now I probably won't take 10 kids for a hayride behind it. The kids absolutely already love this thing. They were riding around on it last night and then already today. I would consider making this a dump bed at some point, but I'm not sure that's necessary either. If I'm going to haul this much topsoil anywhere, it's probably going in that wagon. And mulch is easy enough to rake out of here. Maybe one day I'll explore it. As I was working on this thing, I've already realized how awesome it is to have this big of a space. I'm used to throwing tools on the golf cart, and it's 3 by 2.5, pretty small area. I was working on this thing and I was throwing tools everywhere, and I can't wait for the day that I can throw a chainsaw in here, log chains, and go off somewhere on the property, come back when I'm done working, just put this trailer aside with the stuff in it and be ready for next time. Not have to clean the golf cart off and put the tools away every time. Another thing I thought was really cool is, so this is 4 by 8, and I could very easily top this with a sheet of plywood and make a mobile workbench wherever I wanted. Another thought I had was I could put a 4 by 8 sheet of plywood on here, cut it in half in the middle, and put hinges on it. And so I could have basically storage underneath both sides of this, and then have a table. So I'm thinking stuff like for the pond, for example, throw all the chairs in here, coolers, a little grill if we want to, and take everything out to the pond, and then we could flip it back down and have a tabletop to, set up for lunch or something like that. Kind of a cool thought. Time will tell how well it holds up. Thus far, I think it's going to do just fine. The running gear is rated at 2,200 pounds. By the time this is all said and done, I would imagine there's not more than 300 or 400 pounds of lumber on here once it dries out. No big deal there. If I have any one complaint, it's just that the turning radius on this thing isn't overly great. I mean, that's a pretty good turn, but if you try to do a loop-de-loo with a golf cart and kind of go in a circle, the leading vehicle will easily outturn this. So you got to be careful that you don't overturn this. Again, that's only kind of on a massive, loop. If you're just trailing normal, making turns, not a big deal. You can see there I already kind of pinned it in when I was turning around in the driveway. Considering cutting this off, but I'm not sure if I've got enough room in the linkage back there or not, but we'll let it go for now. I'll just have to be cognizant of when I'm driving around. And again, this is 2x6 deck, 2x6 sides. The beams underneath are 4x6s, 8 feet long. Yeah, this is plenty strong. This is not gonna have any issues supporting whatever we put in it. Kind of feel like I could do Teen Wolf right up here. It'd be kind of fun. Bearings are good in it. It rolls real nice. All in all, I'm very pleased. I'll throw a link down below if you want to check out that running gear. All right, I'm gonna go put this thing to good use, or probably just drive my kids around in circles. See you guys next time. Take care.